Ladies and gentlemen, listen up, because what I'm about to tell you could change your life. How many of you have ever felt like life was testing you, pushing you to your absolute limits? Maybe things are falling apart, opportunities are slipping through your fingers, and you feel like you're running on empty. But here's the truth. This is not the end, it's the beginning. See, when God is about to bless you with something big, He doesn't just drop it into your lap. He prepares you. And that preparation, it doesn't always feel good, but if you know what to look for, you'll realize you're not being broken. You're being built. Pain is the price of growth. Think about it. Every time you've had a breakthrough in your life, it wasn't when things were easy. It was when you were pushed, stretched, and challenged beyond what you thought you could handle. When God is about to bless you with something big, He doesn't make the path smooth and easy. No, He turns up the heat. He forces you out of your comfort zone because what got you here won't get you there. Most people misinterpret discomfort as a sign that they should quit. They feel pressure, they face resistance, and they assume that means they're on the wrong path. But what if I told you that the very thing making you uncomfortable is actually the thing shaping you for the next level? Discomfort isn't a sign to stop. It's a sign to prepare. It's life's way of testing if you're truly ready for the blessing that's coming. Look at the greatest athletes, the most successful entrepreneurs, the strongest leaders. Every single one of them has faced moments where they thought they couldn't go on. They've been exhausted, doubted themselves, and questioned why they were even trying. But what separates them from the rest is they understood a fundamental truth. Pressure creates diamonds. Without pressure, you remain a lump of coal unchanged, unshaped, and full of potential, but never reaching it. Think about a butterfly emerging from a cocoon. When it's inside, it struggles to break free. If someone tries to help by cutting the cocoon open, the butterfly will never develop strong enough wings to fly. The struggle is necessary. That resistance is what strengthens the wings. The same goes for you. If God made everything easy for you, you wouldn't develop the resilience, the discipline, or the strength required to handle what He's about to give you. You see, most people pray for success, but they don't pray for the strength to handle success. They ask for more money, but they don't ask for the financial discipline to manage it. They want leadership, but they don't want to go through the tests that will shape them into a great leader. God doesn't just hand out blessings, He prepares you for them. And that preparation, it comes in the form of discomfort. Maybe right now you feel like you're stuck. Maybe you feel like no matter how hard you try, things just keep getting harder. But what if that resistance is actually the thing making you stronger? Imagine you're in a gym lifting weights. The first few reps feel easy, but if you stop there, you don't grow. It's those last few painful reps, the ones where your muscles are burning and you're about to give up, that actually create growth. Life works the same way. The most successful people in the world don't avoid discomfort, they embrace it. They understand that if they feel uncomfortable, it means they're growing. It means they're stepping into something bigger than they were before. If you're feeling resistance right now, I want you to flip your mindset. Instead of saying, why is this happening to me? Start saying, this is happening for me. Because every challenge, every setback, every moment of doubt is actually part of your preparation. Look at any major transformation in life. It starts with discomfort. A seed has to break through the soil to grow into a tree. A baby cries when it's born because it's leaving the only world it's ever known. Every great story of success begins with a season of struggle. So if you're struggling right now, if you feel like you're in the fire, understand that you are not being destroyed. You are being refined. When God is about to bless you, He will make sure you are ready to receive it. That means stretching you beyond your limits. That means putting obstacles in your way to test if you're really committed. Because let's be real, if you give up at the first sign of difficulty, how will you handle the challenges that come with the blessing? You think having more money, a better career, or a bigger platform makes life easier? No, it makes life more demanding. The higher you go, the stronger you have to be. That's why He's testing you now. Look at people who win the lottery. Most of them lose it all within a few years. Why? Because they weren't ready for the blessing. They wanted the result, but they didn't go through the process. They didn't build the mindset, the habits, or the strength to handle that kind of wealth, and so it slipped through their fingers. That's why God allows us to go through seasons of discomfort so that when the breakthrough comes, we're strong enough to sustain it. Now, here's the most important part. How you respond to discomfort determines what happens next. If you complain, resist, or try to take shortcuts, you stay stuck. But if you lean into the challenge, if you embrace the process, if you trust that this is shaping you into the person you're meant to be, then you unlock the next level. So I want you to ask yourself, where in your life are you feeling discomfort right now? What situation is pushing you, stretching you, or making you question everything? Instead of running from it, what if you faced it head on? What if you saw it as a sign that you're on the verge of something big? Because I promise you this, the bigger the discomfort, the bigger the blessing on the other side. So don't quit, don't back down, step up, lean in, and trust that everything you're going through right now is shaping you for something greater. You are not breaking down, you are breaking through. The question is, are you ready to embrace it? Life has a way of throwing curveballs when you least expect them. You plan, you work hard, and just when you think you're about to succeed, everything seems to fall apart. The job you thought was yours goes to someone else. The business deal you were counting on suddenly vanishes. The relationship you thought would last forever ends without warning. In that moment, it feels like everything is going wrong, like you're being punished, like you're being pushed further away from your dreams. But what if I told you that what looks like a setback is actually a setup for something far greater? See, when you're on the verge of something big, God often removes what no longer serves your future. But here's the challenge. Most people resist this. They cling to what's familiar, even if it's holding them back. They see a closed door as rejection, when in reality, it's redirection. You may not understand it in the moment, but when God closes one door, it's because he's about to open a much bigger one. The problem is, we often get so attached to our plans that we don't realize God has something better in store. We make up our minds about how our life should unfold, and when things don't go according to that script, we panic. We feel like we're losing when in reality we're being positioned for something greater. The reason you didn't get that opportunity is because it wasn't meant for you. The reason that relationship ended is because it would have limited your growth. The reason you faced that financial loss is because you needed to learn discipline before stepping into abundance. Think about Joseph in the Bible. He was betrayed by his own brothers, thrown into a pit, sold into slavery, falsely accused and imprisoned. At any point, he could have thought, why is this happening to me? I was supposed to be great, but everything is falling apart. But every setback was actually a setup, because in the end, he didn't just survive, he was elevated to a position of power and authority. If he had not been betrayed, he would have never made it to Egypt. If he had never been imprisoned, he would have never been in position to interpret Pharaoh's dream. And if he had never interpreted that dream, he would have never been promoted to second in command of the entire nation. Now think about your own life. How many times has something you thought was a setback actually turned out to be a blessing in disguise? Maybe you lost a job, only to find a better opportunity that changed your life. Maybe you went through a painful breakup only to meet someone who was truly meant for you. Maybe you struggled financially for a season only to develop the skills and discipline that later made you successful. The truth is, what feels like rejection is often God's protection. But here's the key. How you respond to setbacks determines what happens next. Most people complain, get discouraged, and give up. They allow temporary disappointment to turn into a lifetime of regret. But the ones who succeed, the ones who step into their purpose, are the ones who trust the process. They may not understand why things are happening the way they are, but they keep going anyway. They don't waste time crying over a closed door because they know a better one is opening. Look at some of the most successful people in the world. How many of them faced failure before they found success? Walt Disney was fired from a newspaper for lacking creativity. Oprah Winfrey was told she wasn't fit for television. Steve Jobs was kicked out of the company he started. At the time, these probably felt like devastating failures, but in reality, they were setups for their greatest breakthroughs because instead of quitting, they used those setbacks as fuel. They didn't let rejection define them. They let it refine them. This is the mindset you need to develop. Instead of seeing setbacks as proof that you're failing, start seeing them as proof that you're being prepared. Every time something doesn't go your way, remind yourself, this is happening for me, not to me, because God doesn't waste pain. He doesn't take something away without the intention of replacing it with something better. But you have to be willing to let go of what's lost so you can make room for what's coming. Think about a slingshot. The further it's pulled back, the more power it has when it's released. Your setbacks are the pullback. They may feel like they're dragging you in the wrong direction, but they're actually building the momentum for your breakthrough. The key is to not lose faith in the middle of the process. You might be in a season of setbacks right now. Maybe doors are closing, people are walking away, opportunities are slipping through your fingers. But what if I told you this wasn't the end of your story? What if I told you that everything you're going through is just the setup for your comeback? Because when God is about to do something big in your life, he will often allow temporary losses to position you for permanent wins. So stop looking at what's lost and start preparing for what's coming. Stop asking why this is happening and start asking what it's preparing you for. Trust that the setbacks you're facing today are leading you to a future greater than anything you could have planned for yourself. Because when you shift your perspective, you realize you are never losing, you are just being positioned for something bigger. There comes a moment in life when something inside you starts to shift. It's not always loud or dramatic. Sometimes it's just a whisper, a feeling, an inner knowing that things can't stay the same. You may not be able to explain it, but deep down you sense that change is coming. And not just any change, something big, something life-altering, something that's going to take you to an entirely new level. When God is about to bless you with something extraordinary, one of the first signs is a shift in your mindset and energy. At first, this shift might feel like restlessness. You might find yourself feeling unsettled in situations that used to feel normal. Conversations that once excited you start to feel empty. You start craving something deeper, something more meaningful. It's as if the life you've been living no longer fits who you're becoming. This isn't a coincidence, it's preparation. God is moving you, stretching you, pushing you to evolve because where you're going requires a different version of you. One of the most powerful indicators of this shift is a change in your thoughts. You begin questioning things you once accepted. Maybe you've always believed that success was out of reach, that you weren't capable of achieving more, that life was just about surviving. But suddenly, you start challenging those beliefs. You begin to realize that the limits you once accepted weren't real. They were just conditioned into you by your environment, your past, and your fears. The moment you start recognizing this is the moment you start breaking free. Your desires begin to change. What used to satisfy you no longer does. You start craving growth, knowledge, and wisdom. You begin feeling a pull towards something bigger than yourself. This is not random. This is divine alignment. God is preparing you for something greater, and the first step is expanding your mindset to match what he has in store for you. Because here's the truth. If you don't believe you're capable of more, you won't receive more. If your mindset is stuck in limitation, you will reject the very blessings that are meant for you. This is why the shift in energy happens first. Before the physical manifestation of success, before the external blessings, before the opportunities appear, your mind and energy must align with them. You don't attract what you want, you attract what you believe you are worthy of. And when God is about to elevate you, he makes sure you start seeing yourself differently. You stop tolerating mediocrity. You stop making excuses. You stop settling for less than what you deserve. Another sign of this shift is that you begin to feel an urge to let go of things that no longer serve you. It could be negative habits, toxic relationships, or limiting beliefs that have been holding you back. Suddenly, what used to feel comfortable now feels suffocating. You might feel the need to distance yourself from certain people, not because you're better than them, but because you're growing beyond the conversations and mindsets that once kept you stuck. This is uncomfortable, but it's necessary. Not everyone can go where you're going. At first, this transition may feel lonely. When your mindset shifts and you start believing in something bigger, the people around you might not understand. They might try to pull you back to the familiar. They might question your decisions, doubt your dreams, or even discourage you from taking risks. But understand this, God is shifting your mindset because he's calling you higher. You can't let the fear of losing people stop you from stepping into your purpose. The reality is, when you start moving differently, the right people will align with you. New mentors, new opportunities, and new relationships will begin to appear. One of the most incredible things that happens when this shift takes place is that you begin to see obstacles differently. What used to frustrate you now motivates you. What once felt like a burden now feels like a lesson. You start realizing that every challenge is actually preparing you for the blessing ahead. Instead of complaining about setbacks, You start seeing them as tests of faith. Instead of running from difficulty, you start embracing it as part of the process. This mindset change is what separates those who stay stuck from those who rise. Another powerful sign of this transformation is an increase in self-awareness. You start noticing your habits, your patterns, and your emotional responses. You become more conscious of how you speak to yourself. The negative self-talk that once controlled you starts to fade because you no longer allow your past to dictate your future. You begin to rewire your mind, replacing doubt with confidence, fear with faith, and hesitation with action. This shift isn't always easy. Growth is uncomfortable. You'll have moments where the old version of you tries to pull you back into familiarity. You might feel resistance, fear, and even self-doubt creeping in. But here's the key. Don't shrink back into what's comfortable. Push forward. Trust that the discomfort you're feeling is proof that transformation is happening. If you weren't meant for more, you wouldn't feel this shift at all. When God is preparing you for something big, he starts by shifting your mind, your energy, and your perspective. He makes you uncomfortable where you are so that you can step into where you're meant to be. Pay attention to what's changing inside you. Pay attention to the thoughts, the feelings, the nudges. That restlessness, it's not a problem, it's a signal. It means you're being called to something greater. The only question is, will you answer that call? There comes a time in your life when the people around you start acting differently. You may notice that some relationships begin to feel strained, certain friends become distant, and people you once trusted no longer show the same support. It can feel confusing, even painful. You might wonder, what did I do wrong? Why are people treating me differently? But what if I told you this isn't happening by accident? What if I told you this is actually a sign that you're being prepared for something bigger? When God is about to elevate you, he begins to shift your surroundings. Not everyone is meant to go where you're going. Not everyone can handle the version of you that is stepping into something greater. Some people were only assigned to a previous chapter of your life, and when that chapter ends, so does their role in your journey. But here's where most people struggle. They try to hold on. They try to keep relationships alive that were meant to fade. They try to force friendships that no longer align. They feel guilty for outgrowing certain connections. This is one of the biggest mistakes you can make, because when you resist this process, you delay your own growth. You stay in spaces that no longer serve you. You surround yourself with people who no longer inspire or challenge you. And instead of stepping fully into your purpose, you shrink yourself to make others comfortable. You must understand separation is necessary for elevation. Look at nature. A snake must shed its old skin to grow. A tree must lose its leaves in the fall to bloom again in the spring. The same principle applies to your life. Growth requires letting go. It requires making space for what's next. It requires trusting that even though certain relationships are ending, it's for a greater purpose. One of the clearest signs that you're being prepared for something big is that God begins removing people who cannot handle the weight of your calling. Some people were fine with you when you were playing small. They were comfortable when you stayed in your comfort zone. But the moment you start thinking bigger, the moment you start moving differently, their energy shifts. Suddenly, they're not as supportive. They downplay your goals. They make sarcastic comments when you talk about your vision. They project their own fears onto you. At first, this can feel like betrayal. You expect the people closest to you to celebrate your growth. You expect them to cheer you on. But the truth is, not everyone can handle the version of you that is evolving. And that's okay. Some people loved the insecure, doubtful version of you because it made them feel comfortable. But the confident, purpose-driven, unstoppable version of you, that intimidates them, not because you've done anything wrong, but because your growth is a mirror to their stagnation. Instead of feeling rejected, start seeing it as redirection. God is not just removing people, he's making room for the right ones. He's aligning you with those who will encourage you, challenge you, and push you to new levels. But before he can bring those people into your life, he has to clear out what no longer fits. One of the hardest lessons in life is realizing that loyalty to the past can cost you your future. Some friendships, some relationships, some environments were meant for who you were, not who you're becoming. And if you try to drag old energy into a new season, it will weigh you down. It will slow you down. It will block the very blessings you've been praying for. Think about an airplane taking off. Before it can reach higher altitudes, the pilot must check the weight of the aircraft. If it's carrying too much, it won't be able to lift off. The same applies to your life. If you're carrying too much baggage, old mindsets, unhealthy relationships, past hurts, you won't be able to elevate. Sometimes the very thing that's holding you back isn't a lack of talent or opportunity. It's the people you refuse to let go of. Now, this doesn't mean you have to cut everyone off. It doesn't mean you stop loving people, but it does mean you have to recognize when a relationship has served its purpose. It means you have to stop trying to convince people to support you when they've already shown you they won't. It means you stop feeling guilty for choosing growth over comfort. God knows who and what you need in your next season. Trust that He is removing certain people for a reason. Some are being removed to protect you. Some are being removed because they cannot handle your blessing. Some are being removed because they were only meant to be part of your preparation, not your destiny. And here's the beautiful part. When you finally release what no longer aligns, you create space for what does. The right mentors, the right friends, the right opportunities will start showing up. You'll find yourself surrounded by people who inspire you, who challenge you, who bring out the best in you. But that only happens when you stop holding on to what's no longer meant for you. So if you're in a season where people are walking away, where friendships are fading, where certain relationships feel like they're shifting, don't fight it. Don't chase people who are choosing to leave. Don't beg for support from those who no longer believe in you. Instead, trust that this is part of the process. Trust that the discomfort of letting go is making space for something greater. Because the truth is, not everyone can handle where God is taking you. Not everyone can carry the weight of your purpose, and that's okay. The people who are meant to be in your life will rise with you. The ones who aren't, they will remove themselves. Not as a loss, but as a blessing in disguise. Elevation requires separation. Let go, trust the process, and get ready, because what's coming is bigger than anything you've ever imagined.